Well, let's start with normality and abnormality related to anxiety. So let's talk about some 3 big disorders that are out there: anxiety, schizophrenia, and depression. Okay, we'll talk about anxiety first. We'll talk about schizophrenia, and we'll talk about depression. And the question that a lot of people ask is this normal, is this abnormal? If you're anxious, how many know somebody who probably, if they fall into any category or struggle, maybe, how do you know somebody struggles with anxiety a little bit? What does it mean when you raise your hand and told me they struggle with anxiety? Tell me what they experience. What are the symptoms? Or what does that mean that they're anxious? Or what does that mean that they have anxiety? Yeah.
Increased heart rate.
Okay, they have an increased heart rate. So this person feels physiological things like that. Sweaty palms. So how many recognize the sweaty palm thing? If you had to get up, you'd sweat profusely if you had to come speak in front of a large group. Yeah? Well, give me another one. Oh, okay, a panic attack would fall into an anxiety disorder, and that is a panic attack would be something like all of a sudden you're out somewhere and you just can't contain your feelings of fear and they just overwhelm you, right? And you almost like, I got to get out of here, something bad's about to happen.
Like constantly, you can't control your thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts that that you can't stop them, right? The thoughts just keep going on and on and on. What? Yeah, shortness of breath. So physiologically, you start, maybe it's kind of like a panic attack, like, I just can't breathe, I got to get out of here, I'm really scared and worried. Trouble sleeping. It's an interesting one because sometimes people with sleep too much when they get overly anxious. Any of y'all in that category? You sleep too much when you get anxious or no? And then how many have a hard time or know somebody has a hard time sleeping when they are anxious? Yeah. All right. What becomes abnormal for all of us varies, but there are some criteria. That is a person experiencing a lot of anxiety. It's pretty clear on the face, and we go, oh, he's anxious right now. He's about to get hit by a train or whatever. And sometimes you find similar kinds of symptoms that all of us have experienced. Whenever you're anxious and fearful, which many of you have been even probably recently, you feel things like this distressing or this bad thing's about to happen or feelings of doom are coming. And many of us can relate to anxiety, right? We just feel that. There's a paper due or some of us are more prone to it. And it just is this very kind of like unsettling feeling like, I don't know what to do with this. I've never felt this and I don't want to go there. I have a friend who's experiencing this, and he just simply was talking about he had to go to this meeting that would have normally been really just a simple meeting, and he goes, I just can't I don't want to go. It feels like something bad's going to happen. And it was just this being kind of, he said, I feel like internally, it's just like I'm unhinged. I don't know what's going to happen. Does that make sense? That's anxiety. Question is, when does it become normal or not? If it's long-lasting and it's this kind of generalized feeling, we call it generalized anxiety, long-lasting apprehension, okay? It just kind of percolates a lot, like the water boiling on a burner that's just kind of always boiling, never maybe boiling over, but it's there, and you feel like it's about to boil over, but it's kind of been there for a long time. Generalized anxiety, we'd call that. It's hard to kind of get a handle on maybe a specific instant or thing or situation or time, but you're just anxious. How common is anxiety? We showed it earlier. 1 in what? What are the odds of somebody being diagnosed with anxiety? 1 in? Probably about 1 in 4, 1 in 5, about 25% of the population at some point could be dealing with the form of anxiety, many of them with generalized anxiety. There are the kinds of anxieties. How many get anxious when you have something due or when you have something big or you have to give a speech? How many say, I'd be anxious? Or maybe, how many are in sports, soccer or basketball or baseball or football? How many of y'all get anxious at the moment when it's something, I don't know, you have to shoot a free throw or you have to get up to bat and you're like a big game? How do people handle anxiety is another question. So here's this. There are some things that cause very specific fears, like phobias. How many in here know somebody with a phobia, and what is their phobia about? Somebody want to give me one? Yeah?
My sister's scared of spiders.
Her sister's scared of spiders. How many arachnophobics do we have in here? Let me show you a picture of a spider. If you have a deep phobia, you might look at this and go, please take that off. I don't want to look at a spider. How many do have, maybe you know somebody with a deep fear of spiders? I'm related to someone with a deep fear of spiders. He does, he said. Wait, one more time, say it again. Yeah, what's the difference between normal fear of spiders? Because if you, by the way, if you see like a black widow or a brown widow, you probably ought to not carry it around. I was at the Orange County Fair this summer, and there was a tarantula, and I picked him up, and it was all, they had it in a room, and they let it walk all over you. How many would say, that would not be good for me to carry that? Is that an unhealthy fear to be afraid to hold a tarantula? No. Some of you, that's not unhealthy. You say, that's just poor judgment on your part to want to hold this stupid thing. But tarantulas don't bite. This one in particular, I wouldn't have held something that would eat me. It's just, you just carry it. But I have a family member who wouldn't even go in the room with the tarantula. Is that the phobia? If a person says, I'd rather not touch that spider. I can look at that, but I don't want to touch it. Is there a healthy, normal fear, right? And then there's a phobia. This person wouldn't go in the room. It's close to a phobia. They don't even want to see this picture. That's close to a phobia. Go ahead.
Oh, my brother has tryphophobia, which is like fear of round objects.
A brother has fear of round objects. What's it called?
Tryphophobia.
Tryphophobia. Gosh, there are some interesting ones out there. How long has he had it?
Like all his life. It's like clusters of objects though.
Clusters of
like
round.
If it's like boba tea, he doesn't like it.
Boba tea, doesn't like it. Yeah. By the way, there are lots of interesting phobias out there. Snake phobias. My favorite one is Santa claustrophobia. Have you heard of that one? That's fear of getting stuck in a chimney. That's funny. Go ahead.
My sisters have a phobia of bananas.
A phobia of bananas. Hey, listen. Almost any object can become a phobia. Snakes. If it becomes, someone asked this question, when does it become, and trying to answer your question, when is it realistic or unrealistic? That's the key, okay? If it's unrealistic, so to have a fear of spiders, that's fine. Fear of snakes, fear of, I don't know, banana seems a little bit weird, but fear of most of these things, okay. But unrealistic says, I cannot even be in the same room with an image or a picture or that object. I will leave, and I don't ever want to see one. When realistically, this thing cannot in any way, shape, or form harm you or hurt you. That's an unrealistic fear. By the way, it doesn't make it, just because you tell somebody it's unrealistic doesn't help them. They go, I don't care if it's unrealistic. I don't want to be anywhere near it. The number one fear of a specific item, snakes. Heights, acrophobia. How many have a fear of heights? Like if you were to stand over something that was like more than 5 stories high, you'd be going, Flying, storms, and dentists. Now, this is just the percent of the population that says, I have a fear of snakes. 25. By the way, there are some people that report a fear of speaking in public. Tell us why you are that way. Let me hear why. Some don't want to eat in public or talk to strangers, and that's called a social phobia. Some people have these kind of very interesting, and okay, overall broad category, number one, phobia, not of snakes, not a specific thing, but a name of a phobia or a fear of something. What's the most kind of common? We'll talk about it in just a second. By the way, as far as specific fears, genders, kind of differ on this one, but for the most part, something called, the most common phobia is called agoraphobia or agoraphobia. And agoraphobia is the fear of open spaces. Yeah. A fear, sometimes people, it's kind of like a fear of fear itself, a fear of open spaces. So people with agoraphobia don't like to leave their house because they're afraid of having a panic attack. And so many of them say, I'd rather stay home home in a safe place, because if I go out somewhere, I'm liable, something bad will happen. You'll see an agoraphobic who will say, if you hang out with me and talk with me and walk with me, I'm fine. But if we go into an open space, an open field, and if you walk away from me, that will freak me out. So many agoraphobics never leave the house. We had a neighbor growing up, I think there was some agoraphobia there. Never left the house or had a hard time leaving the house. And you see her maybe come out in the front yard and that, but otherwise there was really a lot of difficulties, a lot of fear that bad. So that's one of the most common, a fear of open spaces or a fear of leaving someplace safe. Agoraphobics oftentimes will have a specific fear of things like public transportation or going across a tunnel or a bridge. Some people that work like in places like San Francisco have to work there. There's an actual firm that drives people with agoraphobia across bridges. It's a van, and they hide down in the bottom of the van, and they cover themselves up, and then someone drives them across, and they get out, and they're fine, and then on the way home, they drive back on the van because they don't want to be on a tunnel or a bridge. They don't want to be in crowds. It's part of this condition called agoraphobia. They did a survey about 13 some years ago of Americans, and they broke it up by gender. What do you think were the top 5 fears of men and the top 5 fears of women? Give me what you think might be a top 5 fear of men. Women, she said. I knew you were going to say women. I just saw the look on your eyes. The top 5, women is not in men's top categories. Give me another one that might be in there, though. Men, give me something you fear. Fear of failure. It's a good one. Snakes is going to be high, probably. Fear of rejection. Top fear of men. Number one, listen, this was 13 years ago. I don't know if it's still the same. We can ask in this classroom. But the number one fear for them was being buried alive. Ooh. How many of y'all never had this fear until I put it up and told you about it? And now you're like, really? That's a real fear? Fear of being, by the way, for women, top fear. Pretty good, fear of snakes. Okay, I'll put them up. Well, give me another one. Anybody else want one that's going to be up on either list? By the way, some of these do get shared across the list, and there's no real, you don't have to write it down. It's just interesting stuff. Fear of heights is high up there, so to speak. Fear of being bound or tied up. Fear of being bound or tied up. Fear of snakes for men is only 3. Fear of being buried alive still shows up on women. Fear of drowning. Fear of heights shows up, and then fear of public speaking for a lot of people shows up. You don't have to know these or memorize these. It's just kind of an interesting list. Any questions about fears or phobias? They're very specific. And they're, by the way, the other thing we'll talk about in therapy, they're very treatable most of the time. But somebody with the fear of spiders is like, why do I need to get treated? I just stay away from spiders. I kill them. Or I have somebody kill them. Or I run away and I'm fine.
Death wasn't up there though?
Fear of death. It's up there. I think it's the kind of death. People think I'm going to die from high, falling, or so. I think it's part of a lot of these that drives it. It's this fear of that's the reason that they fear. I think some of these is this will kill me kind of thing. So it's kind of more specific than that. Yeah.
Is there like a clinical term for like people like acting upon? Like, have you seen What About Bob? Like
yeah,
like
What About Bob? Sure.
He acts out like he has phobias, but then does that make sense? Like what he does? Is there like a clinical term for that?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about people that pretend to have or act out a certain fear or pretend to have a psychological disorder. We'll talk some about.
No, they don't have it.
Oh yeah, and they know they don't have it. By the way, somebody faking to have a psychological disorder, known as malingering, is not all that uncommon. It's just like someone getting injured and saying they're injured and they can't go to work. It's the same thing. A lot of people will claim something. And there's tests for that, by the way. Causes are, first, the specific item, there's a lot of different causes and all that. You look in the textbook, phobias can develop primarily like classically conditioned phobias. People just become afraid of something because they're associated with something. Somebody screaming. I honestly believe one of our kids, who absolutely had no fear of anything, including bugs or spiders, had a babysitter who was deathly afraid of spiders, and I believe this is how this child became afraid of spiders. Because this babysitter would scream, and the kid would go, I don't know why you're screaming, but it scares me, whatever that was, a spider. And so we think that's, so some causes are, oh, they associated or whatever. Okay, any other questions about phobias? There's a lot out there. The likelihood of getting help for phobias, if you really need it, is pretty good because it probably has some learned causes which can be unlearned. Obsessive compulsive disorders are those unwanted and persistent thoughts. We call those obsessions. If there's a thought that you just can't turn off, you're dirty, your hands are dirty, you have germs on your hand, I gotta go wash my hands and I can't stop thinking about that, that's an obsession. To wash your hand is the compulsion. Does anybody know somebody with a germ phobia and everything is dirty or you have to clean and it gets to, by the way, some of these individuals, anybody have an extreme example of someone with a germ phobia who's washing their hands 200-300 times a day? Taking showers 3-4 times a day? Those are people who clean up and have a certain, this lady, I'm going to show you somebody, by the way, in an amazing video. See, believing that you have germs, that you're dirty, you contaminated could be an obsession if you can't turn it off. Washing your hands helps. And that's why we call it, after a while, obsessive compulsive disorders. They become problems if it interferes with your daily functioning. So there's a person who has a fear that they're going to, leave something wrong or something bad will happen if they don't constantly check it, like the door being locked or unlocked. So they constantly get up at night, I got to check the door and make sure it's locked because I may have unlocked it when I try to check it. But when a person does that, fine. But when a person it starts to interfere with their daily life, they can't make it to class because they're always checking things. They're always worried about that. They have to go wash their hands or whatever. So I'm going to show you a lady who definitely falls into the category of a problem, obsessive compulsive. And so you'll see here, this mom definitely has obsessive compulsive to a high level.
Her obsessions center around her baby son, Jake.
When I come to stop signs, I have to look at him while I'm stationary. For fear that someone's going to come up and take him, open the door. I have to start the car before I take my eyes off him. Ah! When I'm moving, I figure nobody can get to him.
Stephanie's protective maternal instincts have gone into overdrive. It's a form of OCD that sometimes afflicts new mothers.
Don't like it. Don't like it. Just doesn't like.
Okay. To set this trap, I'm going to use a video cassette, which I shall lean against the door. Then I'm going to take this pen and line it up along the green rectangle. And I'm going to point this napkin so the edge, if you follow it with your eye, matches up with the corner of my wall.
Stephanie fears that someone might kidnap Jake, even when she's at home with the doors locked and the alarm on.
I'm not sure if somebody might have gotten in the house while I wasn't here, so I'll set a trap. I will set things up at a certain angle that if they're moved, I'll know it. It's so pathetic.
For a walk?
Stephanie knows her thoughts are irrational, but they're beyond her control. Protecting Jake from every conceivable danger makes life hard.
Okay. Get your stick.
When I can't take my eyes off Jake, it's literal. I stare at him. If I glance away, even like this, it's a chance for something to happen. He has to be in front of me so that I can see him the entire time, so that if somebody walks by, I know that they aren't going to bump him, spit on him, grab him, touch him, inject him with something, whatever. Take him.
Like many people with obsessive-compulsive disorder, Stephanie also has a fear of contamination. She avoids litter or spots on the pavement in case the wheels of the buggy touch something deadly. Passers-by pose a double threat. They could kidnap Jake or contaminate him.
Just need to make sure nobody was near him. Cigarette?
If I looked away, I'll have to turn my stroller around look behind me to see if anybody was in the area, but then I worry that maybe I took my eyes off him while I was checking to see if anybody was behind us. So I'll turn back around, and then I'll turn back around the other way, and I'll just spin around in circles until I feel relatively sure that it's okay. Sometimes it's hard for me to go for a walk because I can never get home, because I'm constantly having to turn around and go the other way because there's somebody coming. If somebody's walking towards me, then I get frantic.
No, that's. Please keep him on a leash.
And it's a fear of never knowing if he was contaminated. It's like I'll never know if that person who walked by touched him. And that will eat away at me.
Before Jake was born, Stephanie was diagnosed as having OCD. Her obsessional fear of contamination leads to compulsive rituals which she uses to manage her anxiety.
When I am going to interact with Jake in some way, I have to be certain my hands have been just cleaned. And they have to be scoured clean.
The urge to perform these compulsions is so strong that in this half hour, Stephanie washed her hands 22 times.
22 times. 22 in a half hour.
It's torturous. I wash my hands continuously. I know I try to stop myself, but it's almost like my feet begin moving for the sink, and I'm trying to tell myself not to do it, but I'm desperate and I have to.
And the washing ritual is complex and has to be performed absolutely correctly 3 times.
I have to lather up my hands completely, drawing my fingers through my other hand. The water has to be as hot as it can be. I start with my forefinger and scrape under my left thumb, and then I switch to my thumbnail and go to my forefinger, the middle finger, ring finger, and then I get to the pinky and I switch to this hand and go back and forth several times, and that just gets the first layer of contamination off, because I still feel, since I scraped under my nails, that it's somewhere on me. So I have to get another pump and do it all over again. And this is really the one that I feel cleans me, because now my nails are clean, and now I'm just going to scrub my hands. And then I have to do a finishing rinse. This is the part that's hard because the water's really hot, burning, but sometimes I keep my hands under there just to feel better. And then I get my towel, and I will be careful not to touch the garbage when I put this in, so I have to, and it touched my hand, so I'm back. But it dries your hands out and your hands crack, and then it gets to the point where I can't close them more than this because the knuckles will crack open and bleed.
It's always been there. It's been noticeable, but it's been manageable. We could joke about it. We could kid her about it. We could do things, to set her off. But it wasn't an issue until Jake was born, our son Jake. Since then, it's been uncontrollable.
Ready? What do you want to do with that?
Stephanie is desperate to start treatment as she realizes the real danger to her son comes from her obsessions.
I'm extremely worried about the effect this is having on Jake. I'm so desperate to take good care of him. And the OCD has a negative effect on him. On his dresser is the soap pump. He puts his hand at it and rubs his hands together. He was doing that at 1 year old. And that struck me that I need to do something, because no 1-year-old should be, pretending to wash it. That was the first thing he pretended to do was wash his hands.
Some of you now realize you don't have an obsessive compulsive disorder. You just like to wash your hands. That is a compulsion, and that's a diagnosable OCD disorder. Good news, ready? She is doing very well with some treatment. of some ways, and that was before her treatment. And then she got into some treatment, and it really helped. This becomes a problem because she can't stop. She can't stop doing this. Her hands start getting this, and she has the inability to stop it. So that, when we talk about obsessive compulsive, by the way, a lot of people in class when we talk about disorders go, oh, I think I have that. Then I show you examples, and you go, oh, I don't think I do. All right, good news. Here we go. Ready? On Monday, we will talk about schizophrenia and depression. So read about it. I'll show you videos of both, and then we'll talk about them.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.